Good afternoon and welcome back. It's the Great Outdoors with the great Doug Leier. Doug, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing good, Adam. Good to be with you.
Happy to be here. A wonderful Wednesday.
Yeah, it
and
is.
Always looking forward to these conversations and really cool stuff to talk about this week. I got the email you sent me, and being a sports guy, I love old records, and I love when old records are getting broken and new history is being made. Normally, I'm talking about home runs, rushing touchdowns, whatever it may be, points in the game. But we're talking about a massive fish, and it has some historical ties to a record that was set way back in 1988.
Isn't that cool? So the state record bullhead was caught previously to this in 1988, a young guy named Riley Zavada, and I remember when I got to meet him. He's an old man. Well, he's not as old as me yet, but he's a legend now, Riley Zavada, and his record has been broken. So here's the stats. Daniel Wegener was fishing September 27th on Devil's Lake, and he's a young man as well.
And this is him here?
That's his picture.
All right, let's pull it up. Go ahead.
That's Daniel right there, and he caught a 4-pound, 9-ounce black bullhead. The previous record that Riley had 35 years ago, back in 1988, was 4 pounds, 1 ounce. So he didn't just beat it. He smashed the record. It wasn't just 1 ounce bigger. 4-pound, 9-ounce black bullhead. And there's a lot of things to me that really make this cool. Is number one, we talk about fall fishing. We've talked about this, for months, about how get out there. The sun is shining, the weather is still nice. Get out there and go fishing. And if Daniel Wegener, I'm trying to think of, I think he's like 15 or 16 years old, and he wasn't sitting at home playing Minecraft.
Yeah.
He's out fishing.
He's out there making it happen.
And very, very few people can say, "Hey, let's go out and catch a record today." I mean, that's just not real. When you hear this record, it stood for 35 years. And the black bullhead, this isn't a walleye. This isn't a northern pike. This is kind of a rough fish. And
it's an ugly one. Look at that thing.
So there you go. It's not going to win a beauty contest. This isn't going to win any kind of beauty contest. So this is winning more like I don't know if it's a WWE whatever it is. It's not going to win.
He looks like Andre the Giant.
It is a big, fat bullhead.
Yeah.
And that is a picture of the record fish. And the smile on Daniel's face, I just absolutely, I love everything about it. Records were made to be broken. You're not going to set any records sitting downstairs in your basement. And go ahead, you can go out and go after your walleye and some of the, the kind of the big trophy type fish. But the record black bullhead, I will tell you, I think a whopper bullhead is like 3 pounds. And when I was Daniel's age and Riley's age, I was living in Valley City, 60 miles west of Fargo, and there's a place called Lake Ashtabula. And I tried for my life to catch even just a whopper bullhead. I couldn't even get a whopper bullhead. And here we go, breaking the record. So it's kind of a cool way to start off a Wednesday chat with the new record fish in North Dakota.
And super cool, both fish from Devil's Lake.
Yeah, that's a little bit kind of cool as well.
Especially just like that lake has some lore to it. It has some, history to it. That's why it's called Devil's Lake. There's supposed to be some sort of lake monster in there or something like that.
I'm sure there are.
Well, there's one.
There used to be. Yeah. One less monster in Devil's Lake, but that's what I think is really kind of cool. Is you just think of the history of these bodies of water, and I don't know where on Devil's Lake Riley was fishing and where Daniel was fishing, but I just think of now there's going to be literally for years people going, hey, maybe we'll catch the state record fish in Devil's Lake. Maybe it'll be broken next week.
Yeah.
We don't know.
You go out fishing and you're like, I hope I catch something today.
Yeah.
And then you reel in, and you can really see. We're going to take another look here. You can just kind of see this guy.
Yeah.
He knows.
Yep.
He's done good.
Yeah. And sometimes you think of it, a young man like that, and that record's going in the books, and his name will be etched in the record books for maybe a long, long time. It'll go down in the history of North Dakota fishing, and it's really just kind of great for him, great for the outdoors, and the kind of the subtle part of the story is if you've been listening to Adam and Doug, we've been telling people to go fishing this fall, and sure enough, there's people going fishing, and they're making memories. Not every fish has got to be a record, but it's really cool to be able to bring that to you. So I appreciate that.
Super cool. Appreciate you, and I'm glad that Riley I'm sorry, Riley was the old one.
He was the old record. This is Daniel. Yep.
Daniel, glad Daniel was able to share that. A good reminder, too, share your stuff, because maybe, you know, somebody catches a 5-pounder and they're watching this and they now know, hey, I got to send that in, because guess what, you know, there's Mark McGuire over here. Here's my Barry Bonds fish.
I got some.
You never know.
I've got some great stories.
They say there's always a bigger fish.
Yeah, well, and there are. A Saturday morning, I think I was out for a bike ride, and West Fargo cop pulls over and says, "Hey, Doug, what's the state record for carp?" And I'm like, "I don't know, just a second here." And I look up, and goes, "My grandson. I think he might have just caught it." Like, sure enough, on the Cheyenne River.
No way.
Austin Loberg. This is probably 20 plus years ago. Caught the state record. Had another one where I got a call out of the Twin Cities. A guy didn't realize he had been. I think he was on Devil's Lake also, and it's the state record white bass.
Okay.
He had caught it. Was down to the Twin Cities, down in Minneapolis. Somebody down there said that might be a record, and starts checking around. Sure enough, it was record. So
Amazing.
he drives, puts that fish back in the cooler, drives up to Fargo, meets Doug in the parking lot of the sporting goods store, and there's the state record sitting out in the parking lot.
Unbelievable.
So, and that's I'm sure Daniel's got a story to tell about this as well, and that's kind of the beauty of the outdoors, is the story behind the story.
And that's the beauty of fishing. You know, someday he might be taking his kid out fishing, and let me tell you about the time I caught the biggest bullhead.
Well, and think about Riley
Yeah.
for 35
Yeah.
years. You know, you could sit around and talk about how many three-pointers you made one night, and how many touchdowns you scored. And Riley's probably sitting back for 35 years going, state record bullhead.
yeah,
here.
Absolutely.
There's only one.
That's amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Very cool stuff. Now getting into some a little more serious stuff. We talked about it before. We're going to talk about it again. CWD, that's chronic wasting disease.
Right.
We're going to talk about what it is and how people can get their deer tested. Let's go ahead and play the video. Tell me about this.
This is really a serious subject. Chronic wasting disease is terminal. It kills deer, it kills elk, and one of the best things that we have is cooperation from hunters that drop off their deer heads. They'll drop off their deer heads at a collection site. You just kind of saw that
here's
there.
one of these collection
and you
sites.
can find the collection sites on different locations on the Game and Fish Department website, because we know there's so many people that may live in Grand Forks and Fargo, and they're traveling across the state doing, going deer hunting, archery deer hunting. The rifle season is coming up. But a couple different angles. So number one, Game and Fish, we want to test those heads to find out where chronic wasting disease is, and then also to find out where it's not. And there's no live test that can be done. So we have to have the cooperation of hunters dropping off their deer heads so that we can test the lymph nodes. We also, if you want to, the test is done on lymph nodes from the deer, and we do have a self-sample kit that we send out. It takes out about 5 days for it to come in the mail, and basically how you can take the lymph nodes out of your deer, put them in the mail, and then we'll do the test. One of the things that's changed a little bit, Adam, is so a lot of times people, when they hear about helping out Game and Fish, helping out the government, they maybe shrug their shoulders just a little bit, and they go, yeah, if we think about it, if we get time, we'll do something like that. And I'm not trying to strike a chord of fear with anybody, but if you want to make sure that your deer that you're making sausage and jerky sticks out of does not have chronic wasting disease in it, then you want to get it tested. Mm-hmm. And that's something that's changed over the last 2 to 3 years, is we're seeing more and more hunters saying, hey, I want to make sure the deer that I eat is safe, doesn't have chronic wasting disease. There's nothing that we've seen or heard in research showing that it can be transmitted via eating venison to humans, but there's more and more people that just want to make sure that, hey,
it's better safe than sorry.
Right.
Always.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So that's a little message on chronic wasting disease. We want the deer heads for testing for Game and Fish to find out where CWD is, where it's not at. And if you, as a hunter, want to find out and make sure that your deer meat does not have chronic wasting disease, you may also want to consider dropping off your deer head or doing the self-sample test. So just appreciate being able to mention that briefly.
Well, let's take a look at some of this aerial footage here.
Oh, sure.
What exactly are we looking at? I'm going to go back just a little bit. So here's looks like we're gathering the aerial footage.
Yeah, right. We're videoing the video. This is our biologists in the Badlands of western North Dakota, and they're doing mule deer surveys. They're doing that right now. Should be wrapping up by the end of this week. It's just kind of a peek behind Sometimes people like to see how the news is made. Other times people are going, well, how do you get a handle on the mule deer population in North Dakota? How do you know how many deer are out there? I mean, it's not a census. We can't go door to door and ask how many deer are living here. So we do aerial surveys in the fall for mule deer, and it's going on right now. If you're an archery deer hunter and you've been spending time in the Badlands the last week and a half, maybe you've seen some of these small airplanes flying through the Badlands. That's our game and fish biologists and wildlife managers doing the mule deer survey. It's supposed to be wrapping up maybe by the end of this week, but just kind of a little bit of behind the scenes work of how we get a better handle on the population, and that helps us as wildlife managers set tag allocation and understand what we have for a population that we're working with. So it gives us some really, really valuable data. It's just kind of a peek behind the curtain of some of the work that Game and Fish is doing, using aircraft to do surveys of mule deer in western North Dakota.
Yeah, that's some super cool stuff. Now, we have a few more serious topics to get to.
Sure.
Now, there was an accident, not in North Dakota, but in Minnesota. People might be wondering why you're wearing this coat. We talked about it before. Let's talk about this float coat and why it's so important, why you should get one. I'm gonna go ahead and hit the camera adjuster.
Yeah. Okay, so this looks like just any regular camouflage jacket. And what it is a float coat. And if you took it off and looked on the inside back of it, you can see it's got the same label that a life jacket or a personal flotation device would have. We referenced this earlier on when we were talking about duck and goose hunting. And these float coats, I've had this for probably 20 years. And basically what it is, it's a life jacket. And we cannot stress enough, if you hunt ducks and geese on the water, if you spend time in and on the water in the fall, to invest in a float coat. Essentially, the other thing is they're very warm. So they're great for in the fall and in the wintertime. They keep you dry if it's raining out. But if you fall in a slough or a lake and you have this zipped up, I mean, it's got the latches on there like a life jacket would have. You don't have to pull any rip cords. You don't have to activate anything. It's a life jacket. It's a camouflage life jacket.
That's and it honestly looks pretty cool too.
Yeah, right.
I got to touch it there.
Yeah,
okay.
no, I mean.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
It really is, and I kind of referenced a little bit of the safety aspect of it, and so it's got the same thing that any kind of a any kind of a life jacket would have on there. It's got the same disclosure on there. So, what we try to tell people is you're going to spend maybe $1,000 on a shotgun. You might spend hundreds, thousands of dollars on decoys and duck boats and all kinds of other equipment. Consider investing in a float coat.
Okay.
For yourself, for everybody else. If you spend any time on the water in the fall hunting, then the float coat is just an absolute must. It's a great investment to keep you safe. Sometimes people will say, well, I'm just in a small slough, it's not that deep. That water is cold already, and hypothermia can set in. I'm not saying this is going to prevent all drownings or deaths during duck hunting on the water, but it sure would reduce some of the tragedies that we've heard about in the past. So it's called a float coat. You can find it at a lot of different sporting goods stores. You can invest as much as you want, but your life is worth it, and the life of your friends and family as well.
And it's kind of like a bike helmet, you know what I mean?
It really
you usually
is.
don't need it, but it's that time you do when you're glad you had it.
Well, and here's one of, we do a lot of connections with sports, and because sometimes it puts it in a little different parallel for people, is even the professional athletes now putting the crowns on the helmets. You're seeing more and more of that, and you go, well, it doesn't look as cool.
Who cares?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
So this looks cool.
It does.
There's
look
no
cool.
reason not.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to wear this, and that's one of the advances in technology that is made. Is like we want to try to make sure, and I say the entire industry, that people are drawn to being safe. Like, what can we do to get people? When people say in the summertime, well, what's the best life jacket to have? Well, the one that you're going to wear is what we'll say.
Love that.
Don't give me a color, don't give me a style. Just say if you're going to wear it, then let's get that. So, float coat, invest in it. You're definitely going to be. They last for a long time as well.
And one more aspect for a little show and tell. I'm going to get an even tighter shot this time. Now, we have been talking about zebra mussels. I said, oh, what does a zebra mussel look like? I'm going to get a real tight shot. Appreciate you holding that up here while I get this zoomed up. So, and there's a nice tight shot of your mug there.
Yeah, I was
Doug.
just going to say pan. There you go.
Okay, here
Less
we go.
done, more muscle.
All right. Yeah. So tell us, what
that's
are
a
we
zebra
looking at
mussel.
here?
When you hear about zebra mussels in Minnesota, North Dakota, or South Dakota, and sometimes we maybe take for granted and don't realize that people might say, well, what's a zebra mussel look like? Because we tell people when you're taking your docks out and your lifts out and closing up the lake, check for zebra mussels. There was just another report recently in Hubbard County in Minnesota that I heard about zebra mussels being found. And it's nothing spectacular. I mean, they look like a small little clam, like a miniature kind of a clam. They attach to a lot of metal surfaces, a lot of tires, rims from docks and boat lifts that are in the water.
Because you've shown those videos too of that, like, and you've talked about the importance of, hey, clean out, make sure you're looking for that.
Right. So that's, again, our job is to try to educate and inform people, and we can tell people to look for zebra mussels, and they're going, well, what's it look like? You can find them online, and we'll do this again sometime, but just for the here and now, basically you're looking like for a little miniature clam that's got kind of like zebra-type stripes on there.
There you go, and that's probably why they call it the zebra mussel.
And not a lot of thought groups that were put. Hey, well, how should we name this thing?
Keep it simple.
Yeah, zebra mussel.
Okay.
Zebra mussel.
Very good. Well, Doug, I feel like we've touched on just about anything else. Anything else you do want to touch on before we let you get back to it?
Yeah, pheasant hunting continuing on, and it's getting better every week. With the
I love to
corn
hear
crop
that.
coming up. So
Okay.
yeah, good reports coming in for pheasant. Duck and goose migration still continuing to grow slowly but surely. Enjoy the weather. Get out and fish if you don't hunt, and if you do hunt, take your fishing rod along with you, because on a nice warm afternoon after you shoot your pheasants and your ducks, go wet a line, and next thing you know, maybe we'll be talking about you.
Yeah, double play.
Yeah.
Maybe break a
like
record.
that.
Have yourself a day.
Yeah, have yourself a day.
And to have yourself a day, you got to go out there.
That's right. Stay safe, obey the rules, enjoy the great outdoors.
Life isn't going to live itself, my friend.
That's right.
Thank you so much for joining me
Thank
in
you.
studio. Always a pleasure. Thank you all for tuning in on Valley News Now. This has been The Great Outdoors with Doug. We'll see you again next week, same time, same place.